Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Plan Commission ARB meeting for October 19th. Anyone in the attendee group in the audience, wherever you are at home, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand and you'll be let in at the appropriate time. So with that, let's get started with the roll call.
Chairman Steve Lichtenfeld.
Here.
City Manager David Gibson.
Here.
Aldermanic Representative Ira Berkowitz.
Here.
Excuse me for just one second. I'm sorry, I didn't follow your rules, Mr. Chairman. Helen DeFate.
Here.
George Heddich.
Here.
Bob Denlow.
Here.
Carolyn Gaden.
Here.
We have minutes from two previous meetings on September 20th and October 4th. On September 20th, are there any changes or additions? It was a relatively short meeting. Hearing nothing, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 20th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the same question for October 4th. Any additions, changes? It too was a short meeting. Do we have a motion for October 4th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 4th.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
And
thank you.
I'll abstain as I was absent for that one.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we'll move into old business. And I believe I saw Mr. Mayor from 448 Edgewood Drive there. So I would request that he be let in. And then, Anissa, we're ready to go.
Okay. This is 448 Edgewood Drive. This item was tabled from the September 20th and October 4th ARB meetings. The project consists of the installation of 2 retaining walls along the existing driveway. The proposed walls will be constructed with mortared Eden limestone repurposed from the existing dry stack retaining walls which have fallen over. The design and material of the walls feature a gray color with a cut and rough tumbled appearance. The proposed stone material is a quality building material and the light gray color is compatible with other walls throughout the neighborhood. Staff's recommendation is to approve as submitted.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Mr. Mayor, you're, if you could unmute yourself and if you have anything to add to the staff report.
No.
Okay, well, thank you. Then we'll go on. I do have a question. I think it'll be a great improvement to your home. But I am curious about the color. Is that natural stone or is it being painted? Or, and if it's being painted, what is the color of the mortar? Is that being painted also?
Nothing's being painted. It's natural stone. Most of the stone is reused from the prior wall, which was a dry wall. So we'll reuse most of that stone. The new wall will not be a dry wall. It will have concrete fortifications between all the stones, and nothing will be painted.
Okay. So then the concrete mortar will be the same, essentially the same color as the stone. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that is correct, sir.
I misread it. I thought it was a painted surface, but it's good to see that it's natural. Let's go around the room. And Carolyn, any comments?
I actually have no comments on this. Thank you.
Okay. Bob,
No comments, wishing him good luck on the project.
Thank you.
George,
No comments.
Helen.
Yes, I have a question. Where the drawing says drain to daylight, will that water empty on the sidewalk or on the owner's lawn?
You know, I don't know, but I think Matthew, who's our contractor, is that him, Matthew F? I think that might be him.
Yes, I am here. So I'm Matthew with Brightman Contracting.
With
So
Brightman, yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matthew.
that's okay. So the drain pipe is going to drain a couple of feet away from the city sidewalk. That's kind of how that's where the wall ends, basically. It's pretty close to the city sidewalk. So it's the low point where it collects water and drains it out towards the front of the property, which is how it would naturally drain anyway. So it's not going to drain on the city sidewalk, but it's going to drain a couple of feet. Might be 5 feet, 3 to 5 feet away from the city sidewalk, but that's where it will drain, yes.
Okay, that was my only question.
Okay. David,
I don't have anything to add.
okay. Ira,
No, just Jeff, thanks for doing this. It's should be a nice project, should improve your house. And I don't live too far away, so I look forward to the improvement. Thank you.
Nice to see you, Ira. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
okay. Well, I think we're all in agreement. It will look good. It'll be a big improvement to the front of the house and also save any damage to your cars. We do have a staff recommendation to approve as submitted. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve with the staff as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you're on the way. Thanks for coming tonight.
Good luck, Jeff.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to our second one for this evening under old business, 132 North Merrimack Avenue. And are they here?
Yes, they are. They have their
Okay.
hand raised.
Have we let, oh, there. Okay, Nick Ellis, thank you. Okay, Anissa, let's go forward.
Okay. Project address is 132 North Merrimack Avenue. Subject site is located on the east side of North Merrimack between Westmoreland Avenue and Pershing Avenue. In November of 2020, the applicant received a building permit for interior renovation work associated with the expansion of the clinic from 136 North Merrimack to 132. However, changes were made without approval to the exterior of the building during construction of the interior renovation work, most noticeably by replacing the existing red siding with gray hardyboard siding and replacing the existing windows. The applicant is requesting consideration by the ARB for after-the-fact approval of these changes, as well as other proposed renovations to the site. The applicant has replaced the siding on all elevations with James hardyboard siding and cobblestone with black trim. All windows and doors were also replaced within the existing openings. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed changes are of a high-quality design that is compatible with the surrounding area. While the siding change and the replacement of the more decorative doors removes the historic look of the building, the proposed facade changes are an improvement to the building overall and are consistent with the appearance of buildings on the western side of North Merrimack Avenue, which are gray and white in color. The applicant has also proposed a number of site changes, including parking lot replacement and the addition of a turfed area. The turf area does not include any waste disposal stations. The applicant has also indicated that they will be removing the existing brick pavers located in the sidewalk and replacing with concrete. Given that this work will occur within the city right-of-way, public works approval will be required prior to the applicant performing the work. In terms of signage, the applicant has proposed an acrylic internally lit LED wall sign to be located in the area of the first floor window to the left of the main entrance door. Staff is of the opinion that the wall sign is compatible with the building and surrounding properties. Our recommendation is to recommend approval with the following conditions to be addressed prior to issuance of the building permit. First, per the city's tree and landscaping regulations, a letter from a qualified arborist must be submitted prior to the removal of the decaying pine trees. Second, as the current operator of the veterinary clinic is the VCA Animal Hospital and not the Animal Clinic of Clayton, to whom the original CUP was issued, an administrative transfer application must be submitted and approved. And finally, as the proposed fence and gate appear to traverse the property line, a separate building permit must be submitted by the adjacent property owner for the portions of the fence on their property. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Nick, do you have anything to add to the staff report? Nick, can you hear us? Nick Ellis? No, we cannot hear you. Nick, are you there yet?
Hello.
Ah, okay, we hear you now.
There we go. Sorry, I was having some audio issues there. Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add, I guess all of that was correct. Everything we're doing in the back, cleaning up the old beaten up fence, full fence replacement, replacing all the asphalt in the back, all the way up to the front entrance, just making it improved all around.
Nick, looking at the site plan that was submitted, does your property go behind the property to your north?
No, it does not.
Okay, but you actually have two buildings, is that correct?
Yes. So I'm from the GC performing the work for VCA for 132 North Merrimack. They also own 136 North Merrimack.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, what was your question there?
Well, do you know what 136 will be used for?
No, I do not. I just know that they're moving their business to 132. I don't know plans about the 136 building.
Okay. But it seems like you're doing a lot of exterior work, and in the staff report, it indicated that the turf area would not have any cleanup facilities. Is that correct?
Correct. The turf area would only be accessed by their employees. That the turf area wouldn't be open to the public for use.
But it would be available for the animals.
Yes, correct.
Okay. It seems as if there should be some receptacle out there, unless they have another way of making sure it remains clean at all times.
Yeah, though, I mean, since the meaning of saying only employees will be back there is with them taking the dogs out, the employees only, they'll keep their own yard clean. I can have a receptacle put in back there if that works.
This is Charles Nichols. Can you hear me by chance?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for adding me as a panelist. I'm the Vice President of Construction for VCA Animal Hospitals. I was been to the hospital for the last couple of weeks as well. So if there's anything I can add to the conversation, I was typing in the comments chat thing there that VCA will remain owners of both properties. Dr. Law, who's the property owner of both properties, was a president of CAPNA, which is a subsidiary of VCA. So we will remain tenancy in both buildings, and we'll be improving the parking lot, slurring and striping both lots, and replacing any damaged asphalt that's just been many years in coming to be replaced. On the rear area where the bricks are, again, this building next door is somewhat aged, is probably a kind way to put it. There's a lot of old bricks in the back that are loose that would become tripping hazards when occupied. Hence the reason for adding that concrete and replacing that fence as well. We will have stations with disposal bags and trash cans and maintenance by our own staff as well. But as you can imagine, with an animal hospital, sometimes folks come out without a bag in their hand, and those will be placed for their use. Clients will have access to this rear yard. It's not on the front of the building. This is behind the building. They will have access to that rear yard to walk their animals and to sit outside on a nice day as well. And what else was mentioned? Oh, the fence next door on the property line of the church. The property owner has discussed it with the church. They have a great relationship. I understand the comment earlier about getting a second building permit for the fence replacement. Is that what I heard? And that the church has to issue that or request that? I'll just need clarification on that.
That's correct. They'll need to apply for the portions that are on their property.
Okay. Now, the fence is in place. We're looking to replace the fence compared to repair the fence. If we repaired the fence, is that a different requirement?
No, it would still be the same for repair or replacement.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any further comment, Charles?
Not at this time. Anything I can help with, just let me know.
Okay, we'll go around the room. Carolyn.
No questions? Nothing.
Okay. Let's go back to Carolyn.
Oh, that was confusing. Okay. So I'm sorry, how does this happen that this gets a completely different treatment without getting approved prior? How did that happen? Can somebody explain that again?
Is this having to do with the exterior
Yes.
siding?
Yeah.
So when we first looked at the building, our architect was under the impression that the siding could be, there was some damaged siding that had some wood rot. Again, architects look at things with a little bit of a different eye than an owner does. And the farther we got into the repair work of the siding, we found out that it was quite decayed, as were the window sills. I can't comment as to why Beck's didn't get approval for the replacement of the siding and the windows. To be blunt, I thought they had. We had talked about paint colors and trim colors, and I was under the impression that these things had been talked about with the city.
I can add from Beck's side. I had conversations with Susan on the materials. I know we originally were thinking about going with vinyl, and that was not approved. I sent Susan all the product data on the hardy board, the color that we were going with, the roofing material as well. And our roofing contractor got their permit approved through Clayton for the roof. And I kind of took the approval of the color from Susan as an approval. I said, hey, let me know anything else we need to do. I didn't hear much back after that. And then the request for the review, the ARB review, came through the roofing permit contractor, and then we submitted for the after the fact approval.
All right, I have another question. do you have somebody lined up to look at the pine trees?
Yes, we have Baxter Farms and Hanson's Tree Service looking at the trees for us, and to have the arborist approval letter.
Okay, so prior to anything happening, you will go through the city and hand them that letter and all the process?
Yes, and Bex is aware of that, and we just couldn't get that. I requested that from the landscaper, I guess last week when Anissa sent over that request, and we just didn't have it in time for this meeting, and we're aware that it's pending that letter.
Okay, that's what I have. Thank you.
Okay. Bob?
No questions.
George?
No questions. I do wish this had happened in the proper sequence. It did not. I'm glad to see the building being fixed up and repaired and reoccupied.
Thank you.
Helen, anything further?
No.
David?
No questions from me.
Okay. Ira?
I'm going to ask the question. I don't know if you guys all know the answer already, but were the windows wood clad or of some other nature?
Are they the old windows or the new ones?
The new ones.
No, they're not wood clad.
Well, what are they?
They're vinyl windows.
Well, I thought we as a group had talked about that not being acceptable.
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
And I can't believe none of you asked the question. That's what I'm thinking as I sit here.
Well, I was waiting for you, Ira.
Oh, okay, good. Because I'm the architect. Anyway, yeah, I've got a problem with that, if that's the case. I'm not sure, you know, they were already put in, but you know what? I have no sympathy for that. So in case anybody wants to know.
And this is a case, if the windows are full vinyl windows, not a vinyl clad wood window, of a problem of proceeding without a review and a permit process.
All of this information from the windows and the roofing and the siding had been sent to Susan. So, I mean, that's kind of how we took that approval.
Nick,
And
I did not give you approval. You did not apply for a permit or any type of approval for any of that material. You were going to use vinyl siding, and I said that wouldn't be acceptable from the city standpoint, and that you would need to use hardy board or something similar. That was the end of our conversation. So I know you've done business in the city of Clayton before.
As Bex, yes, we've worked in Clayton.
Well, if there was any question about the procedure you needed to go through, you should have asked me. You didn't ask me about the procedure.
And Nick, we review everything once a permit is applied for and it is put on the agenda for review. So I agree with Alderman Berkowitz that this is a problem because we are not permitting full vinyl windows in the city. Anyone else have a comment on the vinyl window situation?
Yes, I do. My first statement is, in all my years of practice, I've seen something like this happen on a regular basis in different municipalities. Something was done and a formal approval had not been given. And I always saw it as a balancing act. I mean, the windows have already been installed. It's a big expense. What are we really talking about substantively in terms of the change in appearance or something like that? And although the wood would be preferable at this point in time, I think the hardship, even though he invited himself to this dance at this point, you know, when you balance it, and this is a company that's that lives in, that works in Clayton, I would suggest if we could accept it as is, rather than have them yank out all the windows, incur the big expense. I would like to go that way, which brings me to the second point. Steve, are you saying we cannot allow that? Would he have to go to the Board of, I mean, the Board of Adjustment doesn't have jurisdiction over this because it was done in the reconstruction, I guess. I don't know. In the rehab of the building.
Bob, I was saying that we would not allow it if it was through the normal permit process and then the review process at the ARB.
Oh, okay. I mean, I agree. It's a balancing act is the way I see it. What cost are we involved? What is the harm? That's how I analyze it. And I just don't see much harm. It would be better if we could recreate the wheel again, but we can't. That's why we don't have a computer sitting as the board here, but humans trying to make sure that we have good products at the end and that we can move forward without causing great hardship.
This board does have the authority to approve alternative materials.
I have a question about precedent being set, though. If we say, okay, you can do the vinyl windows, there is nothing keeping somebody, you know, a month from now coming back and saying, you know, for their project saying, well, you approved it on that, so you're out of luck.
I would say that's a red herring type of argument. There are always situations like this that happen. And it depends on what is it that was not approved and what is its significance and what is it, how does it change the appearance or the character of the building and maybe to the immediate neighborhood itself. And in this situation, I do not see much harm and I see a great expense to have them yank it out for the so-called non-compliance.
Well, I hear you, Bob, and I don't totally disagree with a lot of what you're saying. I guess I have a consideration of, we had the last meeting, we had a guy who took down a garage without asking, what I would like to see happen, my thinking and your balancing, I would balance, if we were going to, if we're clear that we would go ahead and have approved it at the time, if they had applied for it using these materials, we were going, well, if we would apply, then I'd say, okay, no harm, no foul. I go, fine, that's okay, no problem. But I have a problem with somebody coming and asking for forgiveness over something that they would not have gotten permission for had they asked for it. And I think that's okay. It could become somewhat repetitive. Carolyn is asking about precedent in regards to, let's say, a wood clad or a vinyl window. I'm looking at precedent of process. That if we have a process here that says, you know what, if you put it in and it's not a big deal, but it's sort of a big deal, but they won't give you permission. So let's just put it in and then let's just ask for forgiveness. To me, I mean, that is a bigger problem.
I would say if the issue was the rules would require typically bricks and he put siding on, that's a no-brainer. The harm there to the neighborhood would be far greater by letting the siding stay in a brick neighborhood, let's say. But in this situation, I mean, the window trim, I mean, my initial reaction is, we are really pushing the limits of, quote, the danger of setting precedent. And I hear what you're saying, but I think we're dealing with a situation here where an individual has done the business, whether there is some confusion in the application or not, I don't know. I don't want to do a he says, she says routine. But I think as we sit here today, you know, on October 19th, and the windows have been done, and it's not a big issue from my perspective in terms of appearance and everything else, that it would be just as well let this the vet business continue on, not yank out the windows, and let the, and they're here now trying to make sure everything is else is done okay. And you know, the truth is, I'm not even excited about that building being where it is, as the changes have occurred in the neighborhood anyway. You know, this is not a great big project for Clayton we're reviewing here. It's a very old building that I'm not sure quite fits in the neighborhood anymore, but it's here. And I think on balance, we should just let it go through for the reasons previously stated.
Appreciate that. Okay. I just remember about an hour-long conversation about windows, and I sat here and listened to the architects tell me about windows, you know, whether they be vinyl or wood or whatever. George Heddich, if I recall, was the applicant for that particular discussion, and it went on ad infinitum, and apparently it was a considerable amount of passion that went behind the consideration for what kinds of windows would be permitted. So I appreciate your point, Bob. I'm just not sure it's as de minimis as you're portraying, at least not to this.
I will say George is a passionate guy too.
Any other comments on the windows?
As the business owner, our intention was not to do some bait and switch. We looked at the siding from the photographs and the architect. It looks like it could be repaired. It looks like the windows were in good shape. Maybe we had to clean them up here and there. But the more we got into this very old farmhouse, which is what I like to call it, we found that the material was just deteriorated. I too am disappointed that it didn't go through an approval process, but I want to be really clear. We didn't have a discussion prior to submitting documents, knowing that we were going to do something later. This was an unknown condition when we leased the space and started the architectural documents. And the further we got down, I mean, we've spent almost $2 million improving this building. And it doesn't mean that wood windows wouldn't be wonderful. They would be wonderful. I don't know how long you can take to get wood windows in the COVID-19, you know, pandemic that we're all up in it, but it was nothing intentional from our end.
Okay. Anyone from the ARB with any further comment?
I actually do have a question. It's probably more for Susan and Stephanie. If we did allow this, well, let me preface this. First of all, the building being changed, all the elevations, and not even withstanding the windows being incorrect. All of it was done prior to any ARB approval or any kind of notice. So where do we go from here? I mean, is there some kind of variance that they could get to allow it for this one particular project? Or if we approve it, can other people come back and say, well, you used vinyl windows on this one, so I'm going to use it on this next project?
I can't speak to the precedents. I'd rather Stephanie speak to that. I can, but she's much better at explaining it. As I just mentioned earlier, this board does have the ability to approve vinyl windows. I know in the past you've been very vocal. I appreciate that, and I appreciate that. You know, we are those are important to you and important to the community, and we uphold those standards whenever we're reviewing things, even administratively. But you do still have the authority to approve alternative materials, whether or not how that sets a precedent or looks like a precedent. Stephanie, if you don't mind jumping in.
Sure. So if you're talking about a binding precedent, that's just not here. That's just not the case here. So you're not going to be bound by the decision. They would have to show, in order to really make a case for you to approve this alternate material in a different case, they would really have to show, why it is appropriate on that particular building. And they would have to show, if they were trying to use this as an example, they would have to show that the circumstances were pretty much exactly the same. And so, first of all, you're not going to be bound by that. And are you going to be hard pressed to make, this same decision in the future? I mean, I think that they would have to show that the circumstances are exactly the same, and it's going to come around to, what type of building it is, why this alternate material is appropriate for that particular building, given that particular neighborhood, and the surrounding area.
That's helpful. Thank you.
And if I could just jump in there for 1 second, I was on the Board of Adjustment. And so somebody comes in to have something different than what the rules are, what the ordinance is. And generally speaking, there was never a question about setting a precedent. If we allowed this homeowner to encroach on his sideline by 5 feet, are we going to be allowing everybody to encroach on the sideline by 5 feet or have a different kind of material? And that kind of issue really never came up in the 3 years I was there. Because generally speaking, all buildings are unique. This is definitely a unique building. Everybody has a little different circumstance as here. So that's what I would say. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie, for that description of the precedent setting. Before we go any further, Charles, are you familiar with the staff recommendations?
I am familiar with the staff recommendations in regards to, the only thing I heard outstanding was to get a permit for the property fencing.
Well, there was the one about the decaying pine trees.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yep.
And let's see, yeah. And also the change of ownership on the CUP, that has to be done. And then you also talked about the fence on the property line.
Yeah, on the CUP change of ownership, CAPNA, who was the property owners, is a subsidiary of VCA. So I'm sure that there's some paperwork that our operations and legal folks will take care of. And I do not have a copy of those requirements, but if I can get those from Nick at Beck's or somebody else, I will certainly get that managed here at our support office.
Yeah, Charles, I can send those over. I believe I've already sent those back to Anissa, I believe.
Very good.
Was there another?
I haven't received that yet. So if you
I'll follow up with our legal folks in the morning and get that looked at right away. We understand that that's a requirement for licensing.
Well, are there any other comments from anyone on the ARB? Okay, we have 2 points of view that we need to come to a conclusion. And as you know, I feel that we need to uphold our standards as a standard of our review process. But I also agree with what both Susan and Stephanie were saying, that we do have the option to change and accept a different material. Also, I think the discussion about precedents, and Bob, I think you pretty well summed it up with other examples. We need to make that a consideration tonight also. So with that in mind, are there any further comments, or shall we proceed with a motion to approve with those 3 conditions based on the staff recommendation.
I would move to approve the staff recommendation with the 3 exceptions.
Before we go to that point, or did we get the audience
No, we haven't.
comments?
We will.
Okay.
Let me ask you about with the 3 exceptions.
Oh, sorry,
or
the 3 conditions.
condition. Okay.
Yes.
Any other comment at this point? And does anyone else in the audience have a hand raised? I don't see any. Anissa or David, do you see any? No. Then, Bob, would you like to restate that?
Yes, I move that we accept the application with the staff's recommendations as it lists 3 conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Was-
Anissa, do you have that? Or do we have to have a roll call?
You'll
We'll do a
only
roll
need a
call.
roll call if there is confusion as to who voted what.
Okay.
Anissa, do you know who voted what? I could not tell.
I think we had 3 yays, 1 nay. So I think if everyone could just say it one more time for the record, that would really help.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Therefore, it has passed with the 3 staff recommendations. Okay.
Thank you for your consideration. Much appreciated.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming tonight. Good luck
Have a good
with the expanded business.
Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Okay. We can now move on to new business. And the first one would be item number 1, 21 Aberdeen Place. Let's see. Okay.
You can go ahead and start with the report. I'm shuffling things now. It's always delayed.
Oh, okay.
The project address is 21 Aberdeen Place. The 11,625 square foot site is located on the north side of Aberdeen Place at the eastern boundary of the city limits. The proposed project consists of the demolition of the existing attached garage and the construction of a 740 square foot attached 2-car garage with a deck located above. A 140 square foot wooden deck is also proposed on the east elevation. The project includes several improvements to the existing structure, including the replacement of all windows within their existing openings and the extension of the aggregate concrete driveway. The existing home has a primary building material of red brick. The home features white double hung and fixed casement windows and gray asphalt roof shingles. The proposed garage addition will incorporate the same design and materials to match the existing home. The project also includes the introduction of James Hardy board siding in medium gray. While red brick homes constitute the majority of homes along Aberdeen Place, staff finds the proposed siding and window changes compatible with the neighborhood. The siding is limited to a small percentage of the overall facade that it is located on, and there are several homes on the street featuring darker window frames. The project as proposed is in conformance with the requirements of the R2 single-family dwelling district and the architectural review guidelines. Staff is of the opinion that the design and materials are compatible with the home and with the neighborhood character. And our recommendation is to approve as submitted.
Okay, thank you. I see we have the renovation company, Dan Cordes. And I thought I saw the owners in there. Are they still in?
Yes, we're here. Hi.
Ah, yes, I see you now. Okay. Would either one or both of you like to respond with any additional information?
I don't think so. I think you covered it.
Okay. Dan, anything from you? No. Okay. It looks like to me, like a good addition. We've seen many of these in the general area. And I do have a question about the driveway. You're making it a little wider on your property.
Yes.
However, is that a shared driveway?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Making it wider would not make it 2 car widths wide. Is that correct?
That is correct. It is still 1 car. I believe the expansion is somewhere between 12 and 18 inches. So it makes it a little easier to pull in and out of the driveway.
Okay. And will you be able to back out and do a 3-point turn to come out forward, or will you have to back out of the driveway?
We will be able to do a 3-point turn because of the shared driveway of our neighbor's property, which we've already established a good relationship that we're both okay with, pulling in and out of using each other's driveways.
Okay. Well, that was sort of a functional issue that I wanted to clear up. Otherwise, I think the materials and the design look very nice. They'll fit in with both the individual house as well as the neighbors. So let's go around the room. Carolyn?
I actually had no comments. Thanks.
Okay. Bob?
No comments?
George?
No comment.
Helen?
No comments. It looks good.
David?
Looks great. No comments.
Ira?
No comments. Nicely done. Good luck.
Well, we do have a staff recommendation to approve as submitted with no additional conditions. Do we have a motion? Oh, excuse me, before we go there. Is there anyone else in the audience with their hand up that would like to speak? I do not see anyone else. So,
I'll
okay.
make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Well, Chris and Elizabeth, you're on the way, and good luck with it. When will you have it started?
The demo has started. I think there's quite a bit more work to do though. So I think we're hoping to move in sometime mid next year.
Okay. Well, good luck with it and enjoy it when it's complete.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for coming tonight. We'll move on to new business item number 2. That's 16 Brentmore Park. Anissa? Oh,
You're on
Anissa,
mute, Anissa.
unmute.
Hate making that mistake. Okay, here we go again. The 74,052 square foot site is located on the south side of Brentmore Park, west of Ashbury Avenue. In November of 2020, the ARB approved a 1,000 square foot addition to the home as well as other site improvements. Construction of these improvements was not initiated, and the applicant is now seeking the current proposal consisting of 2 structures. The first structure is an attached open timber pergola extending off of the western end of the home to the rear. The applicant is also proposing the construction of an open air pool cabana to the east of the existing pool, which is proposed to remain. Other changes include retaining wall replacements, paving, and landscaping. The height of the pergola is compatible with the height of the residence from which it extends, and the dark cedar color complements the colors and materials of the home. The pool cabana will also be stained a dark cedar color to match. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed pergola and cabana are complementary with the existing home, which is designed in the Spanish colonial style. The project also includes the addition of several plantings, primarily around the pool and patio area. The plantings include a mix of deciduous and ornamental trees, as well as a variety of shrubs and perennials. The project as proposed impacts a minimal portion of the property, with changes to the site occurring primarily in areas that have either been paved or developed with raised turf. With the exception of pavement replacement at the entry to the home and the decorative fountain proposed for the circular drive, all proposed changes occur on the rear elevation and in the rear yard of the property. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed changes are compatible with the home and the surrounding area, and our recommendation is to approve as submitted.
Okay, thank you. Wes, good evening. Do you have any further comment?
Good evening. No, I think that was a great summary, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Okay. I think it looks great. And the only thing I was trying to determine if the pergola is within the building line. I really couldn't tell.
It is, yes. It's about, I think about 2 feet on the inside of that western building line, or the building setback line.
Okay. I think I see it now. Okay. Otherwise, I thought it looked very good. It's a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood. I think this will enhance their livability very much. So, looks good to me. But let's go around. Carolyn.
Amazingly enough, given it being a landscape project, I thought it looked fantastic. I love the details on it. I appreciate what you're trying to do with the different kind of spaces. You're hired for my home. So, frankly, I didn't have any comments, negative or constructive criticism. So on to the next person.
Okay, Bob.
Great home, great project, a potential B&B for Clayton, I thought.
It's not, but it's against ordinance, Bob. You don't want to encourage people to break the law.
No, it's a great project, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
George.
No comments. No comments.
Helen.
It looks great to me. I trust that you'll have a structural engineer look at the uplift loads on the cabana.
Yes, we have our contractor has a structural engineer on staff looking at that right now.
Okay, I did note that you had a number of references to a structural engineer for the foundations. So looks great.
Thank you.
David.
No comments.
Ira.
I'm just curious, and I'm not an architect, so I can't read all the stuff in here, but so can you explain how the drainage works on these coverings?
Yeah, so are you referring to the pergola and the cabana?
Cabana, right.
So the cabana will have a gutter around the sides, and then it'll drain to the back to where there'll be some rain chains coming down on the back side of the cabana, tie into an under drain that'll drain to a sump. I don't know exactly how far off the pool, south of the pool, but that gravel sump will fill, and then once it gets full, it'll come out a pop-up drain and surface flow to a drain in the southwest corner. Yeah, southwest corner of the property.
Where does it go from there?
It ties into a storm inlet, and off the top of my head, I can't tell exactly, or I can't remember exactly where it goes.
All right, just curious. Okay. No further. You're muted, Steve.
Yeah. Do we have anyone in the audience with any comments? No, I don't see any hands raised. So we do have a staff recommendation to approve as submitted. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks, Wes. It looks good. And how soon will it be started?
Soon as we can. Yeah, hopefully within the next month or so, I would hope.
Okay, well, good luck with it.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, we can move on to new business number 3, number 1, Oak Knoll Park.
Okay.
We're ready.
Project address is 1 Oak Knoll Park. Subject property is the location of the Oak Knoll Park and is bordered on the north by the Southmore subdivision, on the west by Claverack Park, on the south by Clayton Road, and on the east by Big Bend. The applicant is proposing the installation of a new shelter at the north end of the lake. Additional improvements include the replacement of concrete along the western edge of the lake, a stamped concrete area with animal and plant material imprints, and new landscaping. 1 tree will be removed as part of this project. Staff is of the opinion that the addition of the proposed shelter will be an improvement to the site and an amenity to those visiting Oak Knoll Park. The pavilion features a slate roof and natural stone columns, which will match the stone existing on the site. And our recommendation is to approve as submitted.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Patty.
Hi, how you doing, Steve?
Okay, how are you?
Good.
Do you have
I was going to ask if Ted Spade could get promoted. You'll probably have some questions for him. He's with SWT.
Is he in the audience?
He is, yeah. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Ted. Okay, well, Patty or Ted, do you have any further comments?
Well, I was just going to say, I think hopefully you're familiar with the area that we're talking about. We had a project that we wanted to do some improvements to the environmental condition of the pond, and there's some tuck pointing, there's a leak in the pond. We wanted to take care of that. And we had a gentleman who approached us and wanted us to consider doing some other enhancements. So we did bring SWT, Ted Spade with SWT in. We had some meetings with him, with them, the donor, and then also this has gone to the Parks and Rec Commission a couple of times for consideration. So Ted is going to talk a little bit about the project, and Ted, I'll let you share your screen and speak.
First of all, Carolyn, thanks for going easy on Wes. Glad you guys like that project for his first ARB meeting, so I appreciate that. Let me share my screen here. Let's see. There we go. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so this is a presentation that we've shared in open house meetings as well as with the Parks Commission. And it's been developed based on the updates that we've sent to the ARB. The project area that we had surveyed is primarily around the pond itself. And as Patty said, a lot of this is some restoration work and some deferred maintenance that needs to be done. But at the same time, how could we improve that space for the community and the neighborhood people who come to the wonderful Oak Knoll Park? And so primarily one of the things that you'll see over here is we will be demoing out the sidewalk that's over here. At this point, it doesn't meet ADA. You'll see there is 1 tree being removed. It's about a 70% dead red bud. The existing conditions, there's kind of a hodgepodge of things that have happened over the years there. There's this odd kind of seating area here with this odd concrete that I think at one point it even has these blockout panels for a pergola. Must have been some great idea that just never happened. But there's a lot of kind of these odd landscape slivers that are problematic to maintain. And so the desire here was to make this more accessible, improve the functionality of the space, and improve the seasonality of the space as well. So the site plan that's in your packet there, albeit you didn't have the colored one, shows kind of the same location entering where the pond is. We're able to make our ADA grade here under 5%, so we don't have any grasping rails, which is nice. So it's kind of a switchback, if you will, but it really allows kind of a rival spot to the space and a nice little seating node. We know people love walking around the little pond area, and kids love coming to this point here and seeing all the turtles in the pond and the fish. So we wanted to celebrate that area, and you'll see the stamped concrete that was mentioned would be kind of a mud stamped concrete with animal tracks in it and plant materials, something that we've done quite a bit in thematic pavements in parks. And then what we did is the walkway that's there now is very tight with that sliver. We set it back so we have a little bit nicer buffer along here for plant material and for drainage, and to get a little bit more substantive landscape material in this part. You'll also notice that there's a bunch of trees that have been added. We've added 11 native trees to this. Justin with City will be planting those. And then we've added this small picnic shelter over here. Everything on this side of the pond, except for some of the additional trees, will remain as is. So the pavilion structure itself is a designed steel pavilion. The roof, as described, we're going to use the same slate shingles on the roof here. There will be a tongue and groove underside roof panel. The steel structure itself has been designed as a scissor truss to give it a little bit of an architectural flair to it. We just didn't want to pluck something out of a catalog and drop it in Oak Knoll Park. We wanted something distinctive. And then the column wraps, which is shown here on the right, we would use the same kind of historic limestone for the wraps itself. So we want to be very consistent with that material. The pavilion would hold up to 2 to 3 picnic tables and really provide a lovely setting for families that want to walk and enjoy that space. Again, the plant material, one of the things that we really wanted to do is create a sense of seasonality. We have plants like red sprite winterberry holly to give that winter interest, beatrice that would provide the summer interest, that are natives, and pollinator plants that would be attractive to this and really kind of meet that environmental setting that I believe is appropriate for Oak Knoll Park. And then some other additional trees. And we are going to add some aquatic plants there. We want to add large tubs of native aquatic water lilies to give some additional shading and habitat for the lake itself. The picture here on the bottom this is a project we did for Rankin Jordan Pediatric Care Facility, where we did the stamped concrete, the mud stamp with plant impressions and animal tracks, just to make that really unique. And one of the other things I did mention is we will have on the site plan on either side of here, we will have 2 custom carved granite turtles. One will be a Missouri native snapping turtle, and the other one will be a red air turtle. So again, to kind of enhance that environment that's unique to Oak Knoll Park, but also kind of the, to me, when I think of Clayton, right, it's that kind of that tactile response that brings a smile to people's faces. So that is the quick zip around this project.
Okay, thanks, Ted. Patty, you're back. Anything else?
No, I would just say, with the pavilion, the small pavilion, we tried to use materials to match the large buildings in the park. The slate, as Ted referenced, is actually slate that's the same as what we have on our roof. And so we tried to make it fit with, like I said, this is a project where we're trying to fix a few environmental issues. We're gonna be dredging the pond. There's about 4 feet of silt in the bottom of that pond. So we're gonna clean that up, fix the leak, you know, do the tuck pointing, but then a lot of it will be landscaping and this pavilion and the reconfiguration of the trails. Our intent is, if, you know, if approved tonight, then we will begin some of the work actually in-house. Some of the work on the pond itself will be done, managed by Justin Whipple, the park superintendent. And then in the spring, we is when you'd see the construction of the new pavilion and the new trail.
I think it looks great, and it'll add a lot of function. I really do like the simplicity of the shelter, the pavilion, and how it relates to the other buildings on the park campus, which is very nice. Can that shelter also be used for performance? Or would all the performances remain at the other side of the pond?
I think that's interesting because we talked about what kind of tables and chairs in there, and then there was discussion about we might need to move them out like we do at Chapman, where when we have concerts. So I'm not sure if it will become a performance area. I think some people will want it to be just because it's covered. So I'm not certain, to tell you the truth, but I think some things will be performed out of there.
Yeah, we are providing electrical outlets over there. So, you know, it won't be the electrical to, you know, have a rock band, but, you know, certainly a small, you know, speaker or something like that could be done. So we are trying to prepare for that.
Ted, do you have an idea of its size in comparison to the one at the base of the pond at Chapman? That one's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, that's probably twice as big, Patty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it looks good to me, but let's go around the room.
Okay.
Let's start with you, Carolyn.
Hi, can we go back to people view or?
Yep. Let me stop sharing.
See the plan. I don't need to see the plan anymore. I have a question. What is the timeline on this?
So we will, if approved tonight, we'll do a little of the in-house work this fall, and then the construction will take place in the spring. We need to order the materials and those pavilion, that'll probably take 4 to 6 months to come in.
Okay, I had a question for Ted about the perennial plants. There's over 1,500 of PA cited. What are you anticipating those might be? It was 1532, I guess.
Right. So I think we'll be using some Carex. We'll also be using some Liatris and some Asclepias. So I would say those would be I should speak common terms, sorry. Liatris, the butterfly milkweed, and then Carex is a type of native grass material. Those would be the primary plants.
Yes.
We haven't decided on all those, but I think things that would be the donor was very interested in butterfly attraction and bird attraction. So we would go for more of a native vibe.
Perfect. Okay. I was just wondering because it wasn't specified.
Yeah.
The other question I have for you, since there is quite a timeline on this, it's not happening immediately. I love the stamped concrete idea. Is there any possibility to get Clayton students to do designs for that? Like have a competition or something amongst the students where they could design the stencils that get pressed in and make it more about Clayton? I know there's a process in it. I've done it before, but
yeah,
I just think it would be so cool.
It's a possibility. I guess our hope was, Carolyn, was kind of like what we did at Rankin Jordan. We used the leaves and the plants that were nearby, and the animals that would be, you know, the footprints of animals that would be native to the park even, you know, so that it speaks kind of to the place. I mean, I think if you did a student competition or did stencils, I don't know what you would get, it's always the fear of the unknown, right? When you do that. So-
Well, they'd have to have guidelines of being
Right,
native,
right.
whatever. But is there a possibility to have them out there to see how the process is done? So some kind of connection with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a real fun process.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, to your point, Carolyn, they could even, collect some of the leaves that maybe are from the park
Right.
and use
Maybe it's
what they collect. Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe it's an event. I know that both of our kids' prom pictures were all taken there. So I love that you're having a pergola and, that space overlooking the pond is, that's where they all go, for their photos. So, no, I love it. Great.
Well, I have to admit, this project is more exciting than reviewing retaining walls. Although that is as important to that family, I'm sure. A great project. I think of Tower Grove with the lilies in the water there and the terrific landscaping that surrounds the water and the water areas of Tower Grove. You hit a home run. I'm really excited with what you and Patty have done. So good luck to you.
Thank you, Bob.
George.
No comments on the design. Patty, again, express our thanks to the donor for this, for moving this forward on behalf of Clayton.
Helen.
No comments. It looks great.
David.
I'm very familiar with the project, certainly supportive, and Patty and SWT and the donor, can't thank them enough for the work they've put into it. I think it's gonna be a fantastic addition to the park.
Ira.
Yeah, I hate it. I mean, it's an awful project.
I know where you live, Ira.
Yeah.
We can always count on you.
No, by this time, I should know where you live after all. Gosh, I mean, how can you not love this? It's just great, great stuff. Ted, thanks for hanging in with Clayton. I mean, really, you're a gem. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And so I think it's great. Patty, nice job, always. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you both.
Well, it's a great team. We've seen Patty and Ted work together before with everyone else in both of their departments. We do have a staff recommendation to approve as submitted. And let's see if we can make this one work. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, looks like it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. Thanks, Ted.
Good evening.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
We're coming back with Maryland Park in about a month.
Oh, that's right.
So we'll be
Yeah,
back.
stick around.
One more and then I'm out.
Only for tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to new business item 4. As Patty's already indicated. And we're ready.
The project address is 400 South Merrimack Avenue. Subject site is located on the west side of South Central, south of Forest Park Parkway. The applicant is proposing the addition of a new secure vestibule on the north end of the existing building. The purpose of the addition is to allow for a secure area where visitors can be checked in by school staff prior to entering. The single-story addition measures 18 feet in height, 200 square feet in area. All proposed materials will match the existing building. The location of the addition is appropriate and will occupy a similar footprint to the existing ramp and covered entry area, and the proposed materials are of high quality. Staff is of the opinion that the new addition will improve the functionality of the building while having minimal visual impact, and our recommendation is to approve as submitted.
Okay, thank you. I see both Eric Wilson and Mary Jo are here tonight. Would either or both of you like to add anything to the staff report?
This is Eric Wilson. I'm with Bond Architects. Nope, just happy to be here. I think the summary is sufficient. The goal is to move the main entry and office to the exterior of the building.
Okay. Mary Jo,
And-
anything?
Yes, no, I don't have anything. I know a few of our board members did see it on the agenda and they were in favor of it. So hoping everything goes okay.
Okay, good. Well, that's good to hear that the Board of Education is in favor of it also. I do have a question. It looks like you're moving the administrative office. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the current admin office, which is the principal's office, and the two receptionists are kind of in the center of the building on the one wing. And we're going to move them out to the outside where this entrance will, there's an existing entrance there, but this will be the new entrance to the building. So they are moving.
And you're going to reuse the existing canopy? Will it be reworked?
We're going to rebuild it. We were trying to save it, but we'll rebuild it in a similar fashion to what's there now. So the look is similar to the same that you see now I mean, it's behind the building, but when you go around the building, it should look very similar to what's there.
Okay. Then this new entrance on the north side in the parking area, that becomes the main entrance to the school?
It
And
will.
What happens to the other entrances on the west side?
They will still be able to use those entrances for, release and entry during the beginning and the end of the school day. But it'll have signage to direct you around to the main entrance when school's in session.
Well, that'll be a much more secure entry and control point than we've ever had. So
yes, yep.
I thought it looked good. It certainly improves the security, but let's go around. Carolyn?
I have no comments.
Okay. Bob?
No comments.
George?
No comments.
Helen?
No comments.
David?
Comments?
Ira? Comments?
Nothing from me.
Oh, okay. Well, we do have do we have anyone in the audience with a hand up?
No one left in the audience, sir.
That's right. Well, okay, I guess it's getting late. We do have a staff recommendation to approve as submitted. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, looks like we passed and you're on the way. Thanks, Eric and Mary Jo. Thanks for sitting through the entire meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again. Okay, we are not finished with our meeting tonight. We do have one more item. And that's a discussion about Article 55 of the Land Use Code, off-street parking and loading regulations. And George, I think this is your show tonight.
I believe so. And I believe I'm sharing my screen now, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're covering Article 25, off-street parking and loading regulations. There are 7 sections or 6 sections to this article. First one is the parking itself. Second one are rules on how to compute the parking. Third is where the parking is supposed to be. Fourth is design of what the parking is. Fifth are loading requirements. And then 6th are the bicycle regulations. The bicycle regulations in and of themselves also include computing, location, and design. So it kind of overlaps there, but not totally. At the end of the presentation, I've got a couple of discussion questions prepared if we do not have anything that we want to discuss, just some observation that I made while I was going through Article 25. Okay, to begin, parking is computed in multiple ways. You can have it by square foot, which is what you see most of the time in for commercial businesses, offices, theaters. You also have it by unit, where you're looking at a family unit, a dwelling unit, a duplex or multifamily unit. You have it by room count. Motels, dormitories are counted by the room. I'm sorry, motels and rooming houses by the room. You can count it by bedrooms, parking by bedrooms in the case of dorms, fraternities, sororities, nursing facilities, that type. You also have a calculation method where it's by seat, where you're looking at restaurants, churches, theaters, places of assemblies, auditoriums, and the like. Restaurants, though, also there's a star beside restaurants, because restaurants have additional calculations when you're looking at restaurants, and I'll go through some of that in a later slide. Another way of counting it is by members. So St. Louis Club or the any private club, you would need to have a certain number of spaces per member. And then the final one that we have on the slide is by the classroom. So when we're looking at new schools or educational facilities, the parking is calculated by a per classroom basis. One of the things that's not on here, which we do have, is drive-through windows. And drive-through windows are not very common. I can only think of one time in the year and a half I've been on here where we've had drive-through windows come up. May have missed a meeting, but those are counted on a stack space per window. And again, because that's not so common, I did not put that up on this slide just to go through it. What I didn't want us to do today is to try to go through specific calculations, because as noted, it is very technical in nature, and we can do that, but we can talk through that a little bit more as we get through. All buildings are required to provide off-street parking. There are exemptions built inside our code. Theaters is one of them. If they're less than 10,000 square feet, and retail of less than 3,000 square feet in downtown, parking is not required on those properties unless they face the north side, of Maryland Avenue. So it's kind of a little bifurcation there on what would happen on Maryland Avenue between west of Forsyth Boulevard. The one thing I did note here, and I underlined it, downtown is not a defined term anywhere that I could find. So we've got a provision for parking in downtown St. Louis, but no definition of what downtown is. Whereas you go to the next one for restaurants, where there are a lot of different permutations, combinations, and exemptions and modifications, it specifically said in our code that if you have less than 3,000 square feet in a restaurant in the central business district, you're not required to have parking. So we've got some disconnects there as well that I wanted to kind of go in. Again, restaurants had the most exemptions, modifications, permutations, and combinations of the calculations, and you'll see a lot of that come up here. So restaurants located in hotels and motels don't necessarily have to have parking. If they're in office buildings of greater than 150,000 square feet, don't necessarily have to have parking. Cafeterias in some of these office buildings, again, don't necessarily have to have parking. One of the things I do want to note and talk about a little bit here, some of the modifications as well. Again, restaurants had the most modifications. If you are outside of the central business district, you have to provide proof that you have parking available for employees. So that is, we look at Pino's that came up the other day, part of the parking, they have to provide parking for their employees, and they have to provide proof to the city that they've got that parking available. Restaurants that are located again in buildings of less than 150,000 square feet, the parking mix can be modified based upon other criteria. And again, those restaurants are the ones that you will see the most changes in on how you calculate these methods. For the most part, when you start looking at parking, it's an aggregation though too. And I jump ahead myself on that one. Commercial buildings can modify their parking in a number of ways. One, through parking studies, And you've seen that when we've gone up for the PUDs that come up, when we have the parking studies with the recommended parking on those parking studies. When they are going in for conditional use permits, the Board of Aldermen may allow for a modification. And one of the big ones here is that, non-conforming buildings, those have, when you're going back for reoccupancy, those have special provisions when the use is of similar nature or less intrusive. So all of these here lead out is that, we have to have parking. It has to be available. Restaurants are the ones that are the most convoluted in the calculation when I was reading through this, in my opinion. But there are modifications built into this for everything. So nothing is in stone. Whenever we are calculating, you always have to round to the nearest whole number. Whenever you're calculating for buildings that have mixed uses, you aggregate all those uses to calculate the number of parking spaces. We have grandfather provisions in our code for buildings that were built before 1959. So not every building is going to be conforming based on this code if it was built before 1959 when this code was adopted. So again, there are provisions out there that if this is built before 1959, there are certain conditions that they may or may not have to increase their parking requirements. All of the locations for residential, it's required to be on the site, on residential. For other uses, parking has to be within 500 feet of the building. So looking at, again, at Pino's, no, let's not look at Pino's on that one, but something downtown, Beamiston Place, if there had been no parking there, they could have gotten around that by having the parking within 500 feet of that parking, of that structure. It's one of the ways they could have done and developed that. If it is outside that location, though, off of control and off-site, it has to show that it is available in almost perpetuity. So the hotel over on Forsyth, where it was the shared parking garage, that is a use where it was not within the structure or on the property. It was through a shared use agreement of that garage, and that's how they had to meet their parking requirement. Some basics on the design. One, it must meet city code, building codes and regulations. Parking must have access to a street or an alley. The director of public works can change or allow modifications to the width of the spaces and to both the driveways. They can narrow those, widen those, or they can also make modifications to the design to accommodate subcompact cars. That is all within the Public Works Director's authority. As the next section goes into loading requirements, every building that's used for office, retail, service, hotel, or anything involving deliveries is required to have a loading space. Buildings that are within the C1, C2, and HDC and S1, it's a minimum of one space, and it increases on the square footage of the building. And again, the calculations, you can have any number of iterations. It's in the code. You can pull it up and do a quick look and figure it out there. But you have to go through the calculations, and thank God the city does this. Our staff does this. It can get convoluted and a little bit difficult to go through it, but they're looking at that and it's all covered. For hotels, you have to have 2 loading spaces per 100 rooms, and it increases based on the room count. Again, Public Works can reduce the size of those loading docks, assuming that there would be smaller delivery vehicles or larger vehicles, and it's at their discretion. That very quickly covered parking, and are going to go into bicycle regulations now. So if there are any quick questions on parking, I'm more than happy to go through those and let it have a chance to breathe here and see if y'all got some questions.
Yeah, George, I have one on the parking areas. Is there any requirement or statement about electrical vehicle charging stations?
There is not, and that is one of the discussion points that I had at the end of this, Stephen.
Oh, okay.
But there was not. And that is something that I thought that we should discuss. Do we want to start getting into electrical charging stations, vehicle charging stations? Good question. Anyone else had a comment? Bicycle parking regulations. This applies as well if there are the 4 conditions there. One, if we have to go through if the property has to go through site plan review, architectural review, or conditional use, or a building permit that is making a substantial change in use, floor area, etc. Bicycle parking is exempt for those properties smaller than 3 units, or where a building has private garages for each unit. The example I could think of a private garages for each unit are the 2 buildings that were built on Gay Avenue. I believe those all had private garages. And with those private garages, that would exempt them from having to have bicycle racks. Bicycle racks are calculated again differently on multifamily residential. It's counted on the dwelling units. On almost all other is counted on square footage, with the exception of standalone garages where it's counted by parking spaces. Where that definition does not fit anywhere else, it's parking spaces again. So on a multifamily building that would come up, the Bemiston Place again, it's 1 parking rack required for every 20 dwelling units. If there were 100 dwelling units over there, they would need 5 parking racks, 5 bike racks. Again, similar to the parking requirements, you round to the nearest whole number and you aggregate for uses. So in a mixed use building, you have to bring all those in together. Parking bicycle racks do not apply, again, for buildings that are constructed and established prior to 2014. That's when this code went into effect. Buildings built before this would not have to comply with that. As far as location, they must be on private property. So unless Public Works were to approve putting a bicycle rack out on a sidewalk as meeting the requirement, that would not be allowed. They must be outside of the building and highly visible and well lighted and active area. But if they are not visible or in that area, they must be within, they have to have entrances and signs to the entrance to where the bicycles are located. Okay. So a little bit there's much outside the building, but then you say if it's not inside and in the garage, it's got to be on ground level. So again, the codes kind of are not always 100% there. You've got to kind of cut through it. There are 3 types of standard designs that the city has approved: A-shape, U-shape, post and loop style. Again, I'm not going to put a visual up here for that. A-shape is just what it is. Post and loop is an upside down U. Upside down U, and then a U-shape is truly a U. They have to be solid. They cannot be flimsy bicycle racks. They have to allow for the parking of 2 bikes on a rack. If you have more than 10 bikes racks, you got to have them covered. And then you have ingress, egress, and requirements as far as aisles and how close together they can be placed. As far as the actual design, the director of planning has the ability to approve a creative design outside of those 3, the AU and post and loop style. When you are computing bicycles parking, you are allowed to reduce your vehicle parking 1 space for 1 bike rack up to 10% of the total required parking. And again, I didn't want to go into calculations to go through how this is done, but bicycle racks will help reduce the number of parking spaces required. The director of planning, again, has very broad approval rights here, and they can approve the deviation in the number, the type, location, as well as give a full waiver if necessary. that's really the code on the 10,000 foot level and not going into the details. But what I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I think we can start out with number 3, since Steve brought it up. Nowhere in our code do I find that we talk about electronic vehicle charging stations. And, you know, do we want to start looking at something like that? And the other 2 were just questions that I saw as well, so as things that come up. So if you want to talk a little bit more, I've got 3 discussion points, or we can take it ad lib it from here.
Mr. Chair, if I could on that third item there, the EV charging stations, there's actually a meeting that we have on the calendar for Friday morning with the Sustainability Committee, at least the chair and the 2 aldermanic liaisons. We're going to be talking about topics for upcoming meetings. That is on the list. So it's something they've talked about a little bit, but haven't done a lot of research yet. So that is something that I would expect for them to take up here pretty soon. And of course, being in the zoning code, it's something that eventually there will be some sort of joint meeting, I would think, or at least discussion between sustainability and the Plan Commission on that particular topic. And you know, specifically what they're going to be looking at is requirements for new buildings to be EV ready in some cases, and in other cases require a certain number of spaces to be developed at the time of development. So it's really looking at what's out there and figuring out what would be best for the city. But that is something that's certainly on the radar, and there's going to be more coming forward on it, hopefully soon.
Great to hear, David.
I'd like to add on to that just quickly. In the plan unit development zoning district, providing electrical vehicle charging stations is something you can add to your development as a way to get points towards your public benefit.
Yeah, that is a good point on that side of it as well, but it's only specific to the plan unit developments, if I'm not mistaken, Susan. And that's where it may be more advantageous to us to look at a little bit more comprehensive requirement for EVCs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was just added when that section was amended a couple of years ago. So,
if I could jump in, I think the vehicle charging stations are essential in this day and age as electric cars are rushing in. Although I was just told that not all electric cars require plugs. Like Toyota uses its brakes as the car moves to charge itself. They don't have plugs. Yeah, and they're not the only one. So when you think of start putting plugs in, we better take a good look at what the market is coming in with, because Toyota is a huge player in this field. The second thing I'd like to say is, George, I'm so impressed what you did. This really sets the standard.
It's copy and paste, Bob.
Well, I just thought you were just passionate, but you're also very skilled at stuff like this. The other thing I would like to say, when I see stuff like this, I am always amazed that they have formulas which comes from, I don't know how they figure it out. For example, if you have 10 bikes, half of them have to be covered. Where'd they come up with 10? Why half? I mean, whether it's off-street parking and minimum whatever, it just amazes me that we have these formulas. There must be some basement in Washington, D.C. where there's 3 people that makes all these calculations and sends them out to the rest of the country. I don't know how we do it, but I'm impressed.
Well, Bob, and to that point too, the question number 2, a single family and a 2 family each require 1 parking space. For anything larger than that, it's 2. So if you have a 4-plex that you're building and they're all 1-bedroom units, you have to have 8 parking spaces. And it just seemed to me that there was, again, I don't know where it came from and what the history behind it was, but you know, it just didn't make total sense that a duplex requires 2, but then a triplex jumps to 6, and a quad jumps to 8. And it was, I was amazed.
Which brings me to my final point. The state of Oregon, as I understand it, as somebody was trying to explain to me, has turned a lot of this upside down. they have passed laws, especially in Portland, where to encourage the building of more housing, which they're desperate for, and to reduce the reliance on private cars, they have done away with a lot of these requirements of like a car for every unit. They may have 0 requirements now. For commercial and residential, they have either dramatically reduced or limited to 0 the requirements of having so much off-street parking for your residential or commercial units, which is turning everything upside down. And the idea is it puts a lot more pressure on off-street parking. And I guess they're trying to force people, as I was explained to me, to get rid of their private cars. And they're going to try to mandate it by making life unbearable for you if you bring a private car to your home. Anyway, I just want to point that out. That's on the West Coast.
Right. And let me address that too. I mean, but on the board, we're always talking about, well, how many parking spaces do you need for a particular, high-rise building even, and if it's near a mass transit, you're deciding that you're going to limit the number or you don't have to have as many because, you don't want to encourage cars. You want to encourage people to use mass transit. But the problem here, Bob, is we don't have that much mass transit. We don't have convenient and good mass transit in the area. And I'm in favor of limiting parking spaces so that people don't have as many cars and we can limit cars coming into downtown area. That would be wonderful. But then we have to do something about improving our mass transit system so that mass transit reaches all sorts of areas of the city rather than just 1 or 2. And we can get ourselves out of the dependency on the combustion engine. But at this point, all things are not working together to get that to happen, unfortunately.
I wholeheartedly agree. I just pointed that out. I mean, Portland does have a mass transit system that is real pretty and useful and is used. And ours is reluctantly to say very limited. But I just brought that out to say, you could see a trend where they just turn the rules upside down. That's all.
I missed that last meeting because I was actually in Portland 2 weeks ago, and I was there for 5 days. And I think I got in 2 cars the whole time I was there, took mass transit all over everywhere. It was quick, clean, efficient. I mean, they are light years ahead of us as far as that's concerned. I mean, we're talking airport to the hotel and then really far reaching areas within the city itself, all of that with mass transit. So
right.
If that infrastructure was in place, there's no doubt it would be time to start limiting the number of vehicles that we would allow in these areas, but we're just not there, unfortunately.
Well, then I was told Washington U's new underground garage that they built as they expanded east is designed to have their underground garage converted to offices. That
Yes.
is already laid out for that purpose. I guess in anticipation of driverless cars dropping you off or whatever. And much more expensive, but really thinking ahead. I have to say that.
Well, there's also another parking complication that we could read into zoning codes in some cities. I believe it's Minneapolis that is either considering or has enacted no single-family zoning, which would allow much more density on all properties. Well, when that happens, I don't recall reading anything about additional parking for these more dense areas. I don't know if anyone has heard anything else about that. Maybe Susan or Anissa may have more information.
No, I haven't followed up with that.
It's been a while since I've been up to Minneapolis, but they have already, they were behind St. Louis in getting their metro system up and going, and it's much more established in a shorter period of time than St. Louis is. And they've also used a lot of the old rail corridors that were going up to the old flour mills on the Mississippi for bike corridors. So they have built in their they have built in some of that alternative transportation methods into their city already. We're St. Louis and Clayton, we're just not there yet.
One of the current discussions or trends in urban planning is actually doing away with parking regulations overall, and for many reasons, one of which obviously is the cost and expense, but also to encourage alternative forms of transportation as well. So there's a seminar that I'm planning on signing up for, so I can find out a little bit more about it and see where that's happening and see how effective it's been. So I'll certainly let you all know what I find out, and if there's anything I can share with you educational wise, for your consideration and future discussion if you want.
Interesting.
As someone that does not have a car, and I don't know how many years I've gone without one now as well. I'm against parking for the most part. I'm pretty much to the point of, if you want to live in Clayton, you need to be able to walk and ride your bike wherever you want to go and not have to rely on parking. I'd rather focus in on relaxing it somewhat to help some of our businesses open, as opposed to putting any type of onerous parking regulation out there. Point number one, we've given an exemption outside of the central business district for restaurants of less than 3,000 square feet. And I'm wondering, what about neighborhood commercial? Think of Des Moines, where there's some small locations down there. You think of Why Down and Hanley intersection, where unfortunately that's now 80% empty now, where those are all spaces of less than 1,000 square feet. But if we're going to require a new business to come in and put in parking or have parking available, it's going to prevent those areas from reactivating. And I think that, to me, the first one on here to me is really, I think, something we need to seriously consider.
Well, you do know part of the tension there on Why Down Hanley has been, you had one owner with 3 restaurants, right? And then, of course, that owner was complaining that the other owners were not complying, and their staff was parking in places where customers should be parking or could be parking, and taking away their business and back and forth. And so the pressure was on to make sure Pino's and others had their staff parking somewhere else, and it wasn't taking up the customer parking areas. In a small area like that, I could understand that kind of tension, but that's where that was at. Now, of course, those restaurants are not operating, so nobody's complaining about anything. But that's
there's nothing going on.
I understand.
Ira, you walk by it, and Carolyn, you walk by it everywhere. Carolyn's off the phone now, but I mean, it's depressing to know what it was a year and a half ago and where it's at today, and to try to see what's going to happen in the future and how things are going to open back up.
The closing of Starbucks was a crushing blow of all of that. So, yeah, no, I totally agree. It's going to open up again, though. It's going to come back. There's no question. The market's there. So, anyway, but parking is, gosh. You talk to anybody, they say, well, I go down, but not enough parking. There's never enough parking. So I don't go there anymore, So we run the risk of losing patrons because, we're taking away parking regulations, Susan. Well, okay, but that sounds well and good. But then will people be going downtown more so because there's no parking regulation? I don't know. It's not necessarily, doesn't make, it's not a straight line. It's not easy to get there. And then we have like the loop trolley, of course, which of course will spend millions, hundreds of millions for what? I don't understand. There's so much more we could have done with that. And, so we're sitting without. All right, that's the deal.
Any other comments for George's excellent presentation?
Very good.
And George, I think you really summarized everything into a very readable and understandable way of doing it. And I know I've mentioned it before, the E-Code 360, and I was following along with my printed copy of it. But George, what you presented was much more understandable than the actual code that we have. So But
I left out the details.
I would like an autographed copy, really. I mean, I would use that more than the code itself.
You know, Bob said you set a new standard, and I hate to think that's going to be a standard. I mean, I don't know that's a bar, that's a raised bar that I'm not sure I could ever consider getting to.
I was bored. How about that?
Well, you put your time to good use.
Yes, thank you so much.
The result was excellent, and I'm sure we'll have others that are equally as good. So
it was very
thank you,
interesting.
George,
I thoroughly enjoyed digging into that. So it was a very good exercise.
Good. You want to do the next one too, George? If you know, you're free to do more if you like.
Not this round.
Well, any further comments for George, or shall we let him off the hook?
Great job.
Thank you.
One thing I would add on the electric charging stations is that we need to be sure that everything is compatible. Apparently, Tesla has a lot of charging stations, but they're not compatible with the other cars.
Wow.
They offered to make them compatible, but there was something that, no, we're not going to do that from the other manufacturers. So that could pose a problem, as we say, yes, you need so many charging stations. What kind? Which do we have?
Yeah, that would be market driven and up to I think it'd be, you have to have so many charging stations, but not define it. I was at the sustainability committee when Ameren came in and spoke, and David, that's where this is coming out from the presentation that you're getting ready to go to as well. But Ameren had draft ordinances that you could use, and you didn't distribute them out. But one of the things that he had said, and it made total sense as well, is that it's easier to get the wiring in place while you're under construction, than it is to go retrofit. And so at a minimum, if we get the wiring in place to where there's the box or whatever it may be, as the market changes from a Tesla or from another type of vehicle, or, instead of the iPhone having to go out and buy a new charger link all the time, once the electricity's there, it's much easier to retrofit. And that was the key piece that he was talking about.
I have noticed that the charging station at the Schnucks on Ladue Road is able to power Teslas and non-Tesla vehicles. So there must be a generic plug that could be available.
Don't know.
There is a lot of the concern is the rapid charging though, and it's going to get to the point if there isn't some kind of standardization where all of these are going to just have tentacles and you'll have to pull up and figure out which plug will work with your vehicle. So that's certainly something to take into consideration.
Yeah, very true. Well, I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about that in the upcoming days or weeks. But again, George, that was terrific, very good, and a good discussion too. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Well, before we end, do we have any other comments? Helen, let's start with you.
Nothing further.
Okay. George, you're probably out of comments for tonight.
True.
Bob?
Nothing.
Oh, Carolyn, you're back.
Yeah. I have a question about the coffee shop that's supposed to open on Wydown and Hanley. Does anybody know anything about that?
Just rumor.
All rumors.
Same.
Just rumor?
Rumors.
Correct.
Oh, that's too bad. I
No
miss my
point.
coffee. I miss walking over for my coffee.
Is the
Okay.
rumor true that, well, are we in public or are we private now?
We are
No,
public.
we're public.
We're public, okay. No, just rumors.
It's okay.
Ira?
All right, nothing else.
Nope, nothing further. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. David?
Nothing further.
No. Susan?
Just a little mention about the downtown overlay district standards we've been working on with H3. I was hoping to get them back in front of you all no later than November. That's still the hopeful plan. But I've been having a little trouble getting the steering committee back together. So I'm going to have to send out another poll to try to get them together, really just for about an hour to give a final recommendation so I can carry it forward to this board. So I just wanted to let you know that's where it is. I was hoping to have a meeting set up by the end of October, but nobody's schedule seems to be accommodating that. So I'll be trying again.
Okay, thanks, Susan. Anissa?
For the next presenter, the next agenda will be lighter than this one. So I was hoping to have a lengthier topic. Bob, I know that you have yours kind of on deck, but I would like to save you for a meeting that is longer and go with a longer presentation topic next week. With that being said, we may have a PUD at some point in the near future. David, that is your topic. So I was thinking it'd be good to have everyone talk about that before one comes through, if you're able to present at the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
That's all I had.
Whose dog is that anyway?
Carolyn?
Whose dog is that?
Oh, that's my dog. It's near her bedtime. And
That's so
she's let
cute.
go.
Which is past my bedtime always, yeah.
Aw, that's sweet. No, I have nothing. All good.
Okay. Stephanie, anything for us?
I don't have anything this evening.
Okay. Did I miss anyone? All your pictures keep moving around. You're different every time I look up. Okay, well, then we will see you in November. Everyone stay well and we'll get together again. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye, guys. Good to see everybody.
Good night.